Good morning, Happy New Year. Hopefully this is a much better year. Already things have been becoming better and better. The COVID the situation is getting a little bit more under control. Vaccine is out there. People are getting a lot of vaccines and lines are long, but hopefully our lives will become more normal. Uh, let's see, as usual, we have some announcements from different parts of the campus, and also we have two colleagues from Office of the President available here. I'm not sure how their schedule for the day would be, but respecting their time, I would like to introduce them and have them um, give us an update on an issue that has recently come up again. So often the issue comes up, we talk about it, but then again shows up. It has to do with leave accrual. And the question is leave accrual something that you can directly budget? In the past, anytime I have talked about this, I have used the example of, let's assume a person is 100% in the budget, which I know that typically that's not the case. Let's assume 100% for a year in the budget. That is how we have asked a sponsor to pay for the time of a person. 12 months of work, complete 100%. Technically speaking, when the sponsor pays for that, the sponsor pays for the salary package, which is for 1 year. Let's assume the person is entitled to get 3 weeks of vacation. That vacation is there. It's a part of that budget from the point of view that we understand it. So I know that um, uh, having vacation is quote unquote a benefit of our employment, but it's not something that we can add it as a line item as benefit or whatever. The question in the past has always been that, so what would happen if a person leaves the department, budget, or a project or whatever, and we owe them, university owes them 3 weeks of vacation that they haven't taken. That's a management issue. You have to find money to pay for it. Technically, sponsor has paid for it. But since this, again, recently has come up again, we wanted to get some input from Office of the President on it. I have two colleagues from Office of the President online. I see one of them. I don't see the other one. I suppose he's there too. I see the Director of and Policy Analysis. Her name is Danielle Powers. She used to be here in Davis. She is waving to us right now. So hopefully you see her. Do you want to say something, Danielle? And then I would introduce Mike too.
No, please go ahead and introduce Mike.
Okay, good. And Mike Kuziock is, some of you might know him. He is in the Research Policy Analysis and Coordination, RPAC, in Office of the President. That's where lots of the policies are taken care of and for the whole system. So I am happy to have both of them here so they can talk to us a little bit about leave accrual and how it works. Danielle?
Sure. So because this keeps on kind of coming up, thank you for introducing me. I actually just transitioned from UC San Diego over here. And prior to being at UC San Diego, I worked at UC Davis under Mike LeGrand. So some of you might remember me. I was very involved in a lot of the research administration positions. So, but when it comes to vacation leave, it is one of those things that they are assessed, but they cannot budget for. And there's two main kind of topics about that. Is just like Ahmad was kind of mentioning, is you're budgeting for a full individual, and that full individual is entitled to vacation. And we want to make sure that we're encouraging people and giving them that opportunity to take that vacation. So if you're budgeting, and the other part of that is that if you're budgeting for the vacation leave assessment, you're actually budgeting for a contingency. You're budgeting for the fact that you are anticipating potentially they're not going to take their leave. And we don't want to budget for contingencies. And we do want to make sure that we're encouraging people to take their leave. And so it is really important to make sure that we're not budgeting for it and they are going to be assessed it. Because if somebody doesn't take any vacation and they take absolutely no sick and they work 40 hours a week for 52 weeks a year, they're do they really have that opportunity to take vacation and such like that? Are they really working a full year? No, they're actually working a year plus, because a real year of an individual is a full person with 2 weeks of vacation or 3 weeks of vacation, depending on what they're entitled to. So we wanted just to kind of clear the air on that. We are planning on, because there's so many questions around this, we're planning on issuing some guidance. We're kind of drafting it right now. We're going to be sending it over to the costing policy directors and managers for all of the campuses, as well as the extramural fund managers. So Mike LeGrand and James Ringo will both see it. They'll have time to comment on it if they have any sort of input. If you have any comment, I would encourage you to reach out to them and make sure that they understand kind of what position. But we wanted to take the opportunity to come here. I know I speak really quickly, so sorry about that. To come here and to either reintroduce myself, say hello to Mike Kuziock, and kind of step in for a second for Mike LeGrand, since I know he couldn't be here today.
Yeah, this feels like Bill Clinton saying, "We feel your pain," right? And I was just looking at the C&G manual. We don't really say much there. And so when we talk about this, it should theoretically be at 7-200, that we have some, probably more than saying what we have now. So RPAC's committed to work with Danielle and the costing policy folks and the extramural fund folks to help build out some guidance so that you can do your jobs. So that's why we have these things. And I just want to say how fortunate we are to have Danielle, because we have someone who's dedicated to thinking about costing policy. And she's really jumped into this in just a fantastic way. And it's great to have her there as a thought partner to get this stuff done.
Great. Any questions on that? So again, the bottom line is that, as we here in Davis have always advised you, you cannot have a line item on the budget for this purpose. It's that simple, really. It's just as a part of the salary. So let's see if there are any questions come up. I don't see anything in the chat. So I guess that was very simple and easy, and everybody understood it right away.
Ahmad, the way you say it, I think it's important. The way that you said that is simple, and I think that as Danielle takes the lead on this, when we do issue guidance, it's important that we have simple guidance that you all can follow. So I'm just mentally noting this, that the C&G manual probably needs more description for you. I have. It's amazing what sponsors will ask you, and it will make you question what you're doing, if that makes any sense. Particularly when they're trying to short you certain benefits and such. So I think this is an important question. We'll get the guidance in there and update it in the C&G manual. And Danielle, we can talk about what the appropriate way is to push out the other guidance, whether it's on a website or whether it's through a memo or whatever. Of course.
Oh, we've already said that it's going to be an internal website, just because Peggy and I, we've already chatted about that one in particular. So we already kind of know how it's going to be ultimately distributed, but we do want to make sure that we're giving you the tools that you need in order to communicate this to your PIs in a way that's going to be really constructive, that kind of explains the situation. So if there's any sort of feedback, especially not just on this topic, but any other topic that comes to specific costing policy, that you need some of that guidance, not necessarily because you need to know what to do, but also that you need to be able to have something to point to in order to provide that to other people that you're working with. Please let us know. We're more than happy to draft something up and kind of work through that information.
Okay. I really appreciate your times. Either of you, do you have anything else that you want to share with this group? This group is mostly comprised of our colleagues in departments who work with the PIs and see the proposals typically before we see them, and we heavily depend on them and their expertise to help the PIs in preparing their proposals as the process goes forward, and also accepting the awards.
Well, I have a profound empathy for that role. I worked at the Sponsor Projects Office in Berkeley, and I worked with PIs in the Neuroscience Institute at Berkeley. Thank you. I know sometimes that can be a stressful position to find yourselves in. And I know that you guys are doing a great job. It's a really exciting time. A change in administration is a change in a lot of federal policies and guidance. So in the past week, we're just tracking a lot of different issues that are coming out. we're in conversation with the federal government relations. Cindy's really active with the vice chancellors for research, where we're getting active updates from Washington, D.C. So one thing I would just anticipate is that we might see some things come through the pike through regulation in particular from our federal agencies. And so that's kind of just exciting if you're a policymaker like me. But thank you all. I know this has been I know proposal activity has been going up, right? That's something we've been seeing throughout the UC system. So I know that you all are working in strange situations. I'm at home with my kids. I'm shocked none of them have come in to yell to say something, that they just went to the bathroom or need some cereal or something like that. So I just want to thank you all, and hang in there and go Aggies.
Thank you very much again.
I'm gonna hang out. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm gonna hang out the whole time. So if anybody has any
That's
questions
great.
or feel free to chat me. I'm willing to listen in. So I'm curious. I like these meetings. So
That's
Yeah,
great. Then maybe we'll make the two of you permanent members of the team too.
Well, yeah. Well, just to be honest with you, I mean, you're always welcome to welcome us. Like we respect that we're 10 campuses and you all have to do your own thing. But RPAC, and I don't want to speak for Danielle, she's in a different group, but I'm sure she seems very talkative. We're always available to be resources and to be a part of these conversations. But I'm happy to hang out too. I'm going to go make a cup of tea, but I'll be right back.
Well, are you making it for everybody or just for you?
Just me.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Ahmad.
Thank you.
yeah, I encourage you.
On the
Please
serious point,
include us.
actually, Mike
Definitely
said that we are 10 campuses and so on and so forth. But from the point of view of Davis, and I have been here long enough that I see the value of Office of the President, and we rely on Office of the President a lot. It's true, we are 10 campuses, but we are really one super unit that we all work together. And the support that we get from Office of the President and RPAC and all of the different units is absolutely invaluable. It just, as one unit, we have a lot of power across the country to make sure that issues that we deal with are dealt with properly, and having people like Mike and Danielle in OP and Cindy, who is extremely active in most of these organizations, it's extremely beneficial to the whole system.
It's funny.
So thank you, Mike and Danielle.
I woke up one day, 20 years later, here I am in research administration and policy still, after I was hired as a temp by Jay Kiesling at UC Berkeley. And the one thing I've learned in our engagements when you go to national meetings and when you collaborate among the UC system is we as a system are more aligned than I think we appreciate. We have a more common approach with policy and guidance and just sort of attitude, if you will, about how we do these things. So we're much more aligned than we're different. That's just my overall observation. We each have our institutional quirks. Davis has its quirks, but it's just how it is. But that's an amazing power of that sort of the 10 campuses and how we function.
I agree.
So long as we keep beating Berkeley. Yeah, that's.
Oh, God. Don't say anything to our colleagues from Berkeley. But it's funny. It's funny when someone from Berkeley, I always think of them as like, they want to be the smartest kid in the room campus, right? Historically, that's sort of what they're at. They raise their hand at a system-wide meeting, and they know everything. It's really, I can't believe I've been here for 20 years to see that evolution of all the campuses and the research portfolios. I mean, Davis really has emerged into a powerhouse that, like, my very first job, and I'm totally getting off topic, but my very first job was this thing called the BioStar program. I don't know if you remember that, Ahmad.
Absolutely. I was here then. Yeah. Right. I was here, to remember, 6-7 years.
Oh, no, you froze.
Before you joined. So, no, I have seen.
But
I have been here a long time. BioStar, when it started, I was here, actually, under Susan Hattner.
Yes.
your friend.
My friend. So that was interesting. I would come to Davis a lot, in fact, because what we are trying to do is connect small emerging businesses with UC researchers. And there was the UC Davis Connect program. Mona Ellerbrock.
Ellerbrock, uh-huh.
Yeah, so it was just really amazing to be at the ground, if you will, and trying to create these research relationships. I think a lot of our thinking about how that actually happens has evolved since then. But it's been really exciting to see that transformation of your campus, of the research portfolio over those years.
Yeah, for those of you who might not know what BioStar was, it was a program which it was collaboration between UC and the state of California. And the way it worked was that there were certain amount of funding from state of California to begin with. It was like $6 million a year that was made available to UC, and it was for purpose of entering into research agreements with small entities to begin with, small corporations, and then it became big, available to bigger corporations too. But the way it works is that think about the agreements we have with any corporation right now. They pay for the work. They are first in line to get negotiate a license. The way START worked was that the corporation paid 50% of their cost and state paid the other 50, and the corporation got all of the rights as if they paid the full cost. For several years that was going on, and it worked really well for really tiny entities. And then it became available to bigger entities, and it had to stop. But that was a very good program. Regarding what Cindy said, we think our colleagues at Berkeley, again, you all know that is flagship of the system, the first campus.
No,
I am always happy to see them have their research portfolio and money which comes in go higher and higher, knowing that we always are beating them anyway. So I want them to keep bringing in more money in, because we want to bring more than they do, and that's where we have been for many years now. So with that, Cindy, do you have anything else?
They do like to remind us that their numbers are where they are without a medical school.
They certainly do like to say that, don't they?
They do like to say that.
But then you can say, in a way, we actually have a medical school.
Yeah, it is true. It's mostly engineering, and they can boast the most number of Nobel Prize winners, and they are on campus. When you walk, you see parking spots. It says for Nobel Prize winner parking area. So they have. It's a powerful campus. But again, it's nice to beat them and we beat them on the numbers.
Ahmad, since I know you probably have an agenda, I just want to acknowledge that Danielle and I at 10 do have a meeting to further talk about the state of California. I know of all of our campuses, you are probably the most highly impacted campus when it comes to working with state of California agencies. We're very aware of some of the challenges we faced with implementing this UC rate for it. So we're having some conversations with our CFO, state government relations folks, and our vice president for research and graduate studies. We have a level of engagement on this issue that we've never had before, to kind of deal with the politics of trying to push for that increased cost recovery and actually come up with some real solutions. So I just wanted to let you know, since I know you're probably one of the most impacted campus by that, we've reduced the burden of that process very much on purpose. Randy and I kind of walked through a way to kind of get those approvals through for the special approval faster. But we are trying to work on sort of a longer term solution to that. So we will keep the C&G directors informed of that, but since you are probably the most impacted campus, I just wanted to share that information with you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That's great. I get regular comments, particularly from our College of Agriculture and Environmental Science, because they have a pretty large impact when it comes to state contracts. And we've actually lost some as the ramp up in F&A has occurred. We've lost some pretty large contracts. And so I'm glad you recognize that there are potential impacts on us as you move forward on this policy front.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm really proud about is the California Department of Food and Agriculture. That's the one area where Nathan Brostrom, our CFO, has a really good relationship with the secretary. And we worked out an agreement with them probably about 3 or 4 years ago that acknowledges there's something called federal funding and that it flows through them. And we actually have probably the most comprehensive agreement in place with CDFA that really acknowledges the principles of the type of funding that we see them. The problem as I see with CDFA is we just see so many different flavors of funding. And as a reminder, we do have a really fantastic tool from Janet Napolitano with regards to marketing orders, right? We are going to be working on the back end. I keep on saying we're going to be doing this, but we're doing a larger project around sponsor codes, how they're categorized. But we're trying to find a home for all those little marketing order entities into kind of a common attribute so that you can kind of see them. But that there is that policy, that letter from Janet Napolitano available to everyone entities, so that if you are being told no indirect cost recovery, you just cite the Napolitano letter and we're going to approve it. But we're also on the back end trying to make those relationships more obvious. But I'm as we go forward, I've talked to Danielle about this. I think the CDFA relationship is something that I hope our CFO will look to as a way to consider, how do you work with Caltrans? How do you work with California Department of Public Health, Health and Human Services, et cetera. It's really a larger negotiation thing that should have been happening. And I know, Cindy, I mean, you've been so active in the federal space all these years. It's amazing to see how balkanized and how hyper distinctive our state agencies are vis-a-vis the federal agencies, and a lot of what we see there around costing policy as well. So it's a big fight. I don't know sometimes if it's worth the fight, but I know it has a disproportionate impact to your campus, and we're trying to do a better job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, if I don't see any questions for our colleagues from Office of the President, let's keep going with our updates. Kelly Gilmore, Associate Director on the proposal side. Could you please go ahead with your updates?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. We have several things for proposals that we'd like to share with you. The first one we wanted to talk about this morning are subawards on a proposal. We've seen some instances where departments are delaying submitting their proposal package through Cayuse because they feel that their subawards aren't yet final. We'd like to encourage you to please go ahead and submit and route a Cayuse IPF with subawards, even if the subawards aren't yet final, provided we have a solid overall UCD budget, because we can work well with an almost final version of things and still review, even if the subawards are still pending. We just don't want to have a delay getting the budgets in, as that can jeopardize our ability to do a full review on the proposal. So please route those as soon as you can, provided, again, that the UCD overall budget is pretty solid and final. We also wanted to update everybody that ERA Commons has updated their landing page, so it may look a little bit different when you log in, but that doesn't require any action on your end. There's no change to logins or anything of that nature. However, please be aware that effective September of this year, NIH is going to be requiring dual authentication, just like we have to do when we log into Cayuse. You can sign up at login.gov and can use Duo just like you do for Cayuse. There are tutorials and instruction sheets on login.gov that will walk you through the process. They also have frequently asked questions if you run into any issues. Most people have reported it's a pretty quick and straightforward process to register, no more than 5 minutes. And I want to just let everybody know this isn't something that UC Davis is mandating or controlling. So we're not going to be able to necessarily solve any issues you're encountering in the process. We're going to have to refer you back to login.gov, but we want to make sure everybody has the information and they can start preparing for this requirement that becomes effective later this year. So nobody has any surprises when they go into login September 1st. Speaking of ERA Commons, NIH has updated their address in ERA Commons, excuse me. And that's where you're going to do your application prep and submission and check on the status. And bookmarks to their old site are not working. We're going to go ahead and post the new site in the chat box here so everybody will have it. Please make sure to go in and update any bookmarks you may have, and they'll appear with the new name Commons Plus. You might need to clear your cache first before you re-bookmark though, so please be aware of that. And then my last point about NIH, I just want to let everybody know that effective this month, the NIH salary cap increased to $199,300. I haven't seen anything official come out from NIH yet, but it was announced at the FGP conference a few weeks ago, and it's up on some of their websites already. So please start using that new salary cap. We were notified last week that the U.S. Department of Energy's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Program Information Center, which was recently rolled out, is experiencing some intermittent performance issues. And because of that, DOE has temporarily moved all application submission activities back to the EERE exchange platform, which was effective last Friday at 5:01 p.m. Eastern Time. And they expect to use Exchange through September 30th, 2021, while they work out those performance issues. If you've already started or submitted an application in the EERE Program Information Center, your application will automatically be migrated over to Exchange and should be available beginning February 3rd. And then last but not least, the John McCain National Defense Authorization Act, which was actually passed in 2018, prohibits the use of covered telecommunications equipment or services. And we've started seeing language to that effect appear in some of our award documents. And again, that's specific to federal contractors. The definition of covered telecommunication and equipment or services is actually posted on our website along with any known entities affected by the definition in our research compliance section. But I want to quickly let you know that it is essentially telecommunications or video surveillance equipment and or services that are either produced, provided by, or which uses substantial or essential components produced or provided by entities owned, controlled, or connected to the People's Republic of China. Because we do have to certify that we're not using those equipment or services, we have added language to the certification page in CAIUS that PIs have to certify, and that became effective on Monday, this past Monday, the 25th. So PIs should have started seeing that language on Monday, the 25th. If language comes in on an award for an IPF that didn't have that language, an SIA might be needed. So we just want to let everybody know about that. I don't see any questions.
Okay, let's see. Questions might come up, but let's go to Grace Liu, Associate Director, again, Sponsored Programs on the award side. Grace.
Okay, good morning, everybody. So this morning, I just have a few websites to show you. One are from our friends at UCOP, Mike and his colleagues, and another two items are from NIH. So let me share my screen here. All right, so the first one, is that working?
It shows the first, okay. Yes.
Yeah, yes. First one. Okay, so the UCOP RPAC, oops, one before, there we go. Okay, UCOP RPAC website on sponsor COVID guidance. I know we talked about this website when we all first went into lockdown, but they have been diligently maintaining this website. So as we keep going, I urge you to please keep an eye out if you have any questions on how sponsors are dealing with projects impacted by COVID. They have been keeping a running list of all the sponsors that have been putting out guidance and policies on this. Okay, so Mike,
you can always send me a message if there's something missing, or if you have a complaint about it. We're always looking to. I actually haven't added too much lately, but I think we looked up one day and realized we had a lot of stuff there. But if there's anything else that you find helpful, just send it to us and we'll add it.
And then something that Mike talked about earlier, which is California agencies. So as we all know, the California agencies use the California Model Agreement, and UCOP has created a Model Agreement website that links to the Model Agreement guide, all of the templates for the exhibits, and also a training page if anybody needs a refresher on what it means and how to fill out the exhibits. You can find it there.
Randy just put together an online training that's great, Grace.
Yeah.
And we uploaded that a few weeks ago.
Yeah. So, Sponsor Programs expects the departments to help us fill out those exhibits. So if you have any questions on what goes into what exhibit, please take a look at that page and go through the trainings if necessary. All right. Okay, NIH Diversity Supplements. they're out there. We encourage you guys to apply for them, to talk to your PIs about applying for them. The UC Global Health Institute has put up a website that tells you more about it. But basically, it's a great funding mechanism that allows administrative supplements to many, many different funding mechanisms to enhance the diversity in the workforce, and it gives the faculty members more support, essentially. So if you have any questions or if your PIs talk about that, please look at that website and discuss if that would be a good option for your department and lab. Okay, that's the website for the UC Global Health Institute about the diversity supplements. Last item about diversity and NIH. The NIH just sent out updated guidelines for enhancing diversity and creating safe environments and conferences. So this is on the R13 and U13 grants. If you have one of those and people are talking about conferences, there's guidance on plans to enhance diversity and selecting the organizing committee, selecting the speakers, the other participants such as the chairs and panelists and attendees. And in the future, these diversity plans will be assessed during the merit and technical reviews. So it is a big deal. And in the RPPRs, they are expected to address the diversity of the conference organizers and participants. So it would, if you have an R13 or U13 grant, please take a look at these guidelines because it will be highly relevant for your projects. Okay, any questions? All right, I will stop share. All right, then that's all for me on the award side.
Thank you, Grace. I guess all of you are doing so well that there are not very many questions. I see some questions coming up, but the answers are being posted. So nothing major at this point. Let's see, James and Francisco or anybody from PGA. There is James.
Here I am. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I had a few things to share. Just seems like NIH is popping up a lot today in the conversation. So I have my little 2 cents regarding to NIH here. But first, I just want to remind everyone to please, as you're submitting UC Path cost transfers that are the high-risk transfers that are going to route over to the contracted grants team for approval, please remember that you need to attach the prior approval form that we have, so that we know that we've already reviewed and blessed that transfer going through. Otherwise, we're canceling those out and then you have to go back and start over. That information is on our website. If you need, you can email me and I'll send you a link if you can't find it. Does that make sense? Okay. We are still on a little bit of a hold regarding our effort reports for the last effort reporting cycle. We are hopeful that the UC Path team that's diligently working on getting some of this data fixed, will be delivering that to us fairly soon. For the last, since after the holiday break, we've been thinking we were maybe, a couple of weeks away, and now we're at the end of January and we still feel like, it's probably going to take another couple of weeks before they get the fixes in and we're able to test it and make sure that we've got good data to generate our effort reports. We don't want to generate a batch of effort reports where we have a large population that are just inaccurate. So thank you for your patience there. We're hoping, again, that it won't be too much longer, but this is, the UC Path team trying to get a whole bunch of data and, idiosyncrasies and quirks. What did you say? Davis has our own quirks. Maybe we have some quirks in the way we do our payroll as well. Yeah.
I mean, James,
I thought, Mike, I thought maybe you were just referring to me when you said, UC Davis has its quirks, but
That's what makes my job so fun. Is you get to learn the cultures of each campuses. The UC Path thing has been a really a trippy process, honestly, and I appreciate the efforts of James and others in the extramural funds community really pushing back to give voice to. I would just say UC Path wasn't designed to consider the needs of contractor grants. I have a meeting on Friday, James, with the effort report folks in Oakland about like what's happening there. Because they basically designed UC Path and a lot of these processes with completely ignoring effort reporting. So that's sort of like in a nutshell what happened. So there are people who are very concerned about this and are trying to fix it and have been trying to fix it.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Now, along that same line, what we've been having recently is we have standard agency audit requests come through where something that they like to see is effort reports. So we've been having to explain where we are to just a small number of audit requests so far, but as we go along, I imagine more requests will be coming through. One thing that we can use to help in these cases is the PI ledger review, but as you may be aware, that is also broken. So that is, our local programmers are working hard to try to get that fixed. We're not sure exactly what went screwy with it, but we're trying to get that back online so that if we do have requests coming through, we could at least have the PI go in and use the 325 to put some kind of, document some review of the salary charges that are hitting various projects. So that's fun. But again, hopefully that fix will be able to get out again before too much longer. Okay, well, we already had a salary cap discussion. We'll cross that off. I will mention, we're getting close to being fully staffed. We brought a few new folks into CGA, so we're excited to have some more bandwidth to be able to help everybody with with keeping your awards rolling along, keeping them set up and closed out. Now to the closeout phase of the award cycle, the Health and Human Services, specifically NIH, has introduced a new wrinkle that we're kind of struggling with. And that wrinkle is that in order for us to submit the final FFR, it's finals only, everything needs to tie out on their payment system with the FFR amounts that are being reported. So we have to have our final expenses in agreement with the amount that we've drawn, the cash draw amount, and that has to also be in alignment with the amount reported on the last quarterly cumulative report that we do. So there's a three-way check that they're doing. We don't have the ability to edit any of those fields. The only way we can get those fields in alignment is by going into the payment system and either revising previously submitted data or doing an additional cash draw to get everything in alignment. My bottom line point here is, especially with the NIH, we really need to stick with that rule of having expenses on the second ledger. If we have reports that are due on like the 29th, I think they're due on the 29th of the month this time, we really have to have that squared away 2 or 3 or maybe 4 days ahead of that so that we can go and do the backdoor, adjustments so that we're able to submit and have a timely submission. So we'll be reaching out to you as we know that we have these situations coming up. This month, I think there were just a very small, 3 or 4 that we have to do the final reports for the NIH. Other months will be, a little bit more. I do know that, this is an issue that they have recognized, and there was a note from Koger that I saw yesterday that people are trying to figure out how to resolve this. But in the interim, we're kind of, going to have to do the best we can to get these things through. Does that make sense? Any questions? Any questions coming in? See any? And that is my list of updates.
Let's see, James, there is a question. I think it's regarding the closeout. I don't know if you say anything about that or not. Maybe you want to read in the chat. There is a last question there. I think
I'm
James
trying
is
to understand. Yeah, I see it. I'm trying to. So, you know, what we were trying on those cases, Farm, we were, you know, we were trying to make the decision about whether or not we can just go ahead and do a transfer via JV just to get the expenses all coordinated and call it good. It's really kind of a case by case, so I can't really give you a blanket answer. We need to look at the project and the specifics of what the stuck, you know, what's stuck. I mean, if a transfer was denied, you know, maybe we can follow up offline on this form so I can understand what you're working with. Okay, yeah, thanks.
okay. So I think that's all of the presentations that we were going to have. So then please remember that these meetings, the way we set them up to begin with ages ago, they were supposed to be for you to ask questions, and hopefully we would be able to help answer the questions. So this is open for anybody for any type of question related to activities of any of our offices. Let's see, I see Ben has an announcement from IRB. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, thank you, Ahmad. So we sent out a listserv earlier this month, but in the spirit of trying to contact everybody who does human subjects research who may not be on our listserv, I just wanted to let everyone know that we do have new IRB fees posted on our website. These are specifically for the reliances. So the normal 3,400 initial review, 1,600 continuing review, that's not changing. That's staying exactly the way it was before. What's changing is that when we serve as the IRB of record, so that means that other external sites, we as the IRB review for them, our fees are changing. They're actually going up a little bit. And that's because when the NIH implemented this rule that single IRB review had to occur back in 2018, we set up fees sort of as a guess. And now that the federal government has required it for all federally funded studies that have more than one site, we've seen an increase in the number of these. We've got information about what fair market value is and what our actual expenses are. So those have changed. We've also set up fees for when we are asked to rely on an external IRB for an industry sponsored study. So all of that is posted on our website, and I can post that link in the chat. And we have new forms available on our website as well. The Reliance team is happy to answer any questions that come up about this. We're happy to point you to the right forms. We've also informed the proposals team at SPO, as well as the HS Contracts Budgeting Office. So everybody's aware about what our fees are and can help you get to the right place. But we do ask that for specific questions about your study and when you're budgeting, that you do contact our office. And those fees go into effect February 1st. So for proposals that are submitted after February 1st, that's the new fees. And then in the event that you have an award that comes in where you didn't submit a proposal, but maybe a sponsor has reached out to you and said, hey, we'd like to give you money to do this project, those fees, those after February 1st will also be subject to those new fees. Thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Thank you, Ben. Let's see, James, there's a question for you. It seems like the timeline regarding effort certification.
Yeah, I just answered it in the chat.
Okay. Okay, good. Anything else? Well, it is
I want
9:20.
Paula to ask me some questions.
Okay.
I just haven't heard from Paula in a long time, so I was hoping she'd just ask me some questions. That's all.
Are you having withdrawals from Disneyland?
That's
Oh,
a
I
good
know.
question.
That is very tough. I know. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, since we dealt with Disneyland now too, if there's nothing else, we can go back and serve the community that we serve. Going once, going twice. Well, see you next month. Thank you very much, all of you, and especially our colleagues from Office of the President, Mike and Danielle. Thank you.